come crashing down. What was her father talking about? What did she need to know? And in that moment, everything went quiet. Was this the moment her secret would finally be exposed? Would her life be turned upside down? And what would happen if the bullies found out the truth? The tension hung in the air, leaving Lily with more questions than answers. But one thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. And this was just the beginning. Lily stood there for a few moments, the phone still clutched tightly in her hand, as the weight of her father's cryptic message settled in. Her thoughts raced, her mind spinning in a blur of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. There was no denying it. The text was urgent. Her father rarely reached out to her during school hours, and when he did, it was never for something small. What could he possibly need to tell her? What was so important that it couldn't wait? She tried to push the thoughts aside, telling herself she needed to focus. After all, she was at school now, and there was no way to know what was going on until she could get home. But as she walked to her next class, her mind kept drifting back to her father's words. The idea that something major was about to happen made her feel more trapped than ever. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Every time she glanced at her phone, the text from her father was there, haunting her, like a reminder that things were about to change. She tried to focus on her schoolwork, to act like everything was normal, but the nagging feeling in her gut wouldn't go away. It didn't help that the bullies kept finding ways to torment her. Sarah and her group of friends had been relentless. "You really think you can be part of our world, Lily?" Sarah had sneered during lunch, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Face it, you'll never be one of us, no matter how hard you try." Lily hadn't responded. She never did. But the words hit harder today. The isolation, the judgment, the never-ending need to hide, it was wearing her down. If they only knew who she was, maybe it would be different. Maybe they'd stop making fun of her. But if they found out, would they just turn on her in a different way? Would they start treating her like she was some sort of trophy to be won or a prize to be fought over? It wasn't just the girls who were a problem. It was the whole environment, the pressure to conform, to fit in, to wear the right clothes, say the right things, and live up to expectations. Lily didn't fit in, not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't. She couldn't pretend to be someone she wasn't, and she couldn't bear the idea of being seen as something she had no control over. Money, status, it wasn't her choice. She had inherited it, and while it gave her opportunities, it also made her a target for ridicule. By the time the bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, Lily felt like she was suffocating under the weight of her secret. The day had been a constant reminder of everything she couldn't change about her life. She had to get out of there, away from the taunts, away from the expectation. But when she reached the parking lot, her mind still lingered on her father's text. She quickly checked her phone once more, hoping for some clarification, but there was nothing new. She decided to head home, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. When she got to the front door of the mansion, she was greeted by the usual silence, an overwhelming stillness that always seemed to echo through the halls. It was a massive house, but it never felt like home. It wasn't just the size or the wealth, it was the way her family lived. Her father, a high-powered businessman, was always busy with meetings, and her mother, when she was around, seemed more interested in appearances than anything else. Lily often found herself alone, wandering the grand spaces, unsure of where she fit in. As she made her way to the study, where her father would likely be waiting, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When she entered, she found him sitting at his desk, a serious look on his face. The door closed behind her, and her heart pounded. "Lily," her father began, his voice unusually soft. "I need to talk to you about something important, something that's going to affect our family." She sat down, her nerves getting the best of her. "What's going on, Dad? What's happened?" He took a deep breath, as if choosing his words carefully. "I've been keeping something from you. Something that you deserve to know. It's time you understood why we've kept you out of the public eye for so long." Lily's stomach dropped. She knew what this was about. At least she thought she did. Her family had always been protective of her. There were rumors about other wealthy families, about shady deals, and things that didn't always sit right with the way they made their. It was just another ordinary day at the local high school, but for Lily, it was the kind of day that would change her life forever. She walked down the crowded hallway, her heart racing as she tried to blend in with the sea of students, hoping no one would notice her. But of course, it didn't work. As she passed by a group of popular girls, their laughter echoed through the halls, sharp and cutting. "Look at her. She looks like she hasn't seen a mirror in years," one of them sneered, earning a chorus of giggles from the others. Lily lowered her gaze, her cheeks burning with humiliation. The girls were talking about her again. It wasn't the first time. They always found something to laugh at: her worn-out clothes, her messy hair, her nervous smile. To them, she was just another weird girl who didn't quite fit in with their glossy, perfect world. But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that Lily wasn't just any ordinary girl. In fact, she wasn't even close to ordinary. The truth was, Lily was a rich heiress, one of the wealthiest young women in the country. Her father was a powerful businessman, and her family's fortune stretched far beyond what most people could imagine. Yet here she was, at this ordinary high school, pretending to be someone else, someone invisible. Lily hated every second of it, but she had to. If anyone found out who she truly was, everything would change, and not in a good way. Her life had always been a paradox. At home, she was surrounded by luxury, servants, and a family that expected perfection. But at school, she was just another face in the crowd, someone no one paid attention to. Her choice to live like this wasn't a simple one. It wasn't a mistake either. It was a decision made out of necessity. You see, Lily didn't want people to like her for her wealth. She didn't want to be seen as a trophy or a symbol of something unattainable. She wanted real friends, people who liked her for who she was, not what she had. But the cost of that was enormous. It meant she had to suffer the cruel jokes and the stares of her peers, who had no idea about her true identity. But what she didn't expect was how far some people would go to tear her down. As the girls' laughter grew louder, one of them, Sarah, the ringleader of the group, made her way over to Lily. With a smirk on her face, Sarah said, "Hey, is this your idea of trying hard to look cool? Newsflash, you're failing miserably." She flicked her fingers dismissively, signaling the end of the conversation, as if Lily were nothing more than a speck of dust beneath her feet. Lily didn't say anything. She simply kept walking, her head down, trying to hold back the tears. She had learned to ignore the bullies, to pretend that their words didn't hurt. But deep inside, it was a battle she fought every single day. What Lily didn't know was that, just around the corner, a twist of fate was about to turn everything upside down. As she passed the lockers, she bumped into someone she never expected. It was Jake, a popular guy from her class, known for his good looks and effortless charm. He was the kind of guy who had it all: the friends, the status, the attention. He had always seemed like he lived in a world far removed from Lily's. And for the most part, he did. "Whoa, sorry," Jake said, his voice almost apologetic, as he steadied her with one hand. "You okay?" Lily nodded quickly, trying to hide the panic in her eyes. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just clumsy, I guess." But Jake wasn't buying it. He stared at her for a moment, his brow furrowing slightly. "You don't look fine. You look, well, like you just got hit by a truck." Lily smiled weakly, the words cutting through her like glass. She wanted to tell him the truth, to explain everything, but how could she? How could she explain that the life she lived wasn't real, that she was playing a part every single day? It wasn't just the bullies she had to worry about. It was the people like Jake, the ones who had no idea who she really was, but would probably never accept her if they found out. Just then, the bell rang, signaling the start of the next class. Jake gave her a quick nod and said, "Take care, okay?" before heading off in the opposite direction. Lily watched him go, a sense of dread settling in her chest. What if things had been different? What if she had chosen to be honest with people? What if she didn't have to live in this lonely, isolated world? But before she could even begin to answer those questions, something happened. Something that would change everything. Lily's phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a text from her father. "Lily, we need to talk. There's something you need to know." Lily froze, her heart pounding. She had no idea what the message meant, but she knew one thing. Nothing had ever felt more urgent. She couldn't help but wonder if the cruel teasing, the lonely days, the secret life she was hiding from everyone, was all about money. Lily had heard whispers from her parents about staying low profile, about hiding from the public. She had assumed it was to keep her safe, to shield her from the pressure and the dangers of wealth. But now her father's serious tone made her think there was something far more complicated going on. "What is it, Dad?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. Her father met her gaze, his eyes darkening. "You're not just the Heiress of a business empire. You're also the heir to something else, something much bigger. Your grandfather's legacy, Lily. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a part of something much darker." Lily felt her breath catch in her throat. "What are you saying?" Her father stood up, walking over to the window. "I'm saying that everything we've done, everything we've built, is tied to something you won't understand. Your grandfather made deals with people, dangerous people, and now they want something in return. They're coming for us, Lily. They want you." Her mind was spinning, trying to process the words. She felt the ground beneath her shift as her entire world suddenly felt like it was cracking open. This wasn't just about her hiding from the bullies at school or living in the shadows of her family's wealth. This was something much bigger and far more dangerous. Her father turned to face her, his expression grim. "The truth is, Lily, you've been living in a bubble. And that bubble is about to burst." As he spoke, she realized with a chilling certainty that the bullies at school weren't the biggest threat to her. The real danger was much closer than she ever could have imagined. And just like that, the life she had been trying to keep under control, the life she had been running from, was about to collide with everything she had tried to escape. What now? What could she possibly do? The tension in the air was unbearable, and Lily was left with only one thought. She had to make a choice. A choice that would change everything. Lily sat frozen, the weight of her father's words crushing her. She had always known that there was something off about the way her family lived, but this was something she couldn't have prepared for. Her grandfather's legacy. Dangerous people coming after her. The room spun as everything she had taken for granted. The comfort, the luxury, the normalcy suddenly felt like a fragile facade. "Dad, what are you saying? Why me?" she managed to whisper, the question feeling hollow, as if the words themselves couldn't capture the fear that had begun to rise inside her. Her father looked at her, his face drawn and weary, but there was a steely resolve in his eyes. "Because you're the key, Lily. Your grandfather made deals with powerful, dangerous people, people who won't stop until they get what they want. You were meant to inherit more than just his fortune. You were meant to be the one who carries on whatever it is they've been waiting for." Lily could barely breathe as her father's words sank in. She had always hated the pressure of being in Heiress, but now it was something far worse. She was the center of a storm she never knew existed. Her mind raced, trying to come up with a plan, but all she could think about was escaping this world, running away from everything. "Is there any way out of this?" Lily asked, her voice shaking. Her father shook his head. "Not without facing the past. Not without confronting the legacy of your grandfather. There are people who know about you, who are watching, and they won't stop." A wave of panic swept over her. Her entire life, her identity, had been a lie. A carefully constructed mask to protect her from something she couldn't even understand. She wasn't just some poor girl being laughed at by her classmates. She was the target of a powerful force, one that didn't care about her normal teenage problems. And worse, she had no idea how to protect herself from it. Just as she was about to speak again, the door to the study creaked open. Her mother walked in, her face pale and tense. "We need to leave." "Now," she said, her voice sharp. Lily looked at her, confused. "Leave? Where?" Her mother's eyes flickered to her father. "The people he's talking about, they're here. They found us." Lily's heart raced, and the world seemed to tilt sideways. She could hear the distant sound of engines outside the house, the low hum of cars idling. Her pulse quickened as she realized that her life, the life she had known, was no longer hers to control. There was no more pretending, no more hiding. The danger wasn't just theoretical anymore. It was real, and it was closing in on them. Her father moved quickly, grabbing her hand and pulling her toward the door. "We need to go now. It's not safe here anymore." Lily felt a surge of panic, but also a strange sense of clarity. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running from her wealth, her secret, or the people who didn't understand her. She was running from something much worse. The world she had tried so hard to escape wasn't just a series of cruel jokes and whispers. It was a dangerous, powerful force that threatened everything she cared about. They rushed down the hallway, and as they reached the front door, Lily turned back. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to abandon everything she had known, even if that life had been built on lies. But there was no other choice. The weight of the truth had settled in, and the realization hit her hard. This wasn't just about the bullies anymore. It was about survival. Her family's survival. As they made their way to the garage, Lily's mind flashed to the bullies she had dealt with just a few hours ago. Sarah and her friends, who had mocked her for being poor, had no idea what was really going on. They had no clue about the danger that loomed over Lily's life. And she wondered, as her father hurried her into the car, if any of them would ever understand the truth if she told them. But there was no time for those thoughts now. They needed to leave, and fast. The car sped down the long driveway, the mansion shrinking behind them. Lily felt a strange mix of fear and liberation. For the first time, she wasn't trying to blend in or hide who she was. She was stepping into a world of uncertainty, one that didn't revolve around fitting in or being accepted by people who didn't understand her. It was about her family, her survival, and uncovering the truth about the legacy she had inherited. As the car disappeared into the night, Lily looked back at the mansion, the only life she had ever known. She didn't know what the future held or how things would unfold. But one thing was certain, she wasn't the same girl anymore. She wasn't the poor girl they had laughed at. She wasn't the Heiress hiding from the truth. Lily was ready to face whatever came next. And as the world outside the car window blurred, one thing was clear. This was just the beginning of a story that no one would ever see coming. The stakes had never been higher, and Lily was no longer running from the truth. She was running toward it.